All right, we're back for example 4. We're going to be finding the missing length of each right triangle to the nearest tenth. So it's giving us measurements. I'm going to go ahead and make a right triangle, right? So there's my 90 degree. This is a leg, so it's basically 3 and 6, and it wants us to find C. So we're going to use that Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Our terms are defined here, so I'm just going to substitute those in. 3 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36, equals c squared. We add these together and get 45. Okay, then we want to get c by itself, so we're going to have to do the square root of both sides. The square root and that square cancel each other out, so we're left with c. And then I want to put this in exact form, so I want to get all the perfect squares, the factors of perfect squares out. I know that 9 times 5 is 45, so I can rewrite this as 9 times the square root of 5. I know that the square root of 9 is the same thing as 3 squared. Okay, then that square root and that square cancel each other out, and so I'm left with c equals 3 square roots of 5. That's the exact answer, but it says round it to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to have an approximate answer and use my calculator to figure that out. So the square root of 45 ends up being 6.7 rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay. Or I can do 3 square roots of 5. It's always good to check. So 3 times the square root of 5 ends up being the same exact thing. So that's how we solve these problems with our exact answer and the approximate. Okay, let's go ahead and try this next one here. So again, we have our Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. We're going to go ahead and input these values in. So we're trying to figure out what a is. We know what b is. B is 24 and 25 squared here. Okay. Now we just need to determine what 24 squared is. I'm going to do that over here on the side. 24 times 24. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. 6, 7, 1, 5. Okay, so 576 equals 25 squared. I'm not sure what that is either, so I need to determine that. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 2 times 5 is 0. Write the 0, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So what do we have? 5, 2, 6, 625. Okay, we're going to get a by itself, or a squared, so we're going to use the inverse operation. Okay, that cancels. We're left with, we've got to borrow. That would be 9. That would be 1. Borrow again, 4. Ooh, this one's fun. This one's my favorite. Okay, we have to do the inverse operation to get a by itself, which would be square root of both sides. Square root and square root cancel each other out. We know 49 is the same thing. It's a perfect squared number. It's the same thing as 7 squared. And that square root and that square number cancel each other out. Fruit ninja, it feels so good. Okay, and then we know that we have a positive and negative, but because we're dealing with distance, it's going to be positive. So our answer is a equals 7. All right, so this is the last one, and I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. So find the missing length, which would be b. Here's my friend the pause dragon. I might need to pause your device. Go ahead and work this out. When you get done, press play and we'll talk about it together. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, let's see how you did. So, Pythagorean theorem, right? So we're going to have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All of our terms are defined here, so we're just going to substitute them in. 12 squared plus b squared equals c squared would be 13 squared. 12 squared is 144 plus b squared, 13 squared is 169. Then we do inverse operation, which would mean we'd subtract both 144 to both sides. That cancels. We're left with, what are we left with? Ooh, this one's going to be so fun. I love it. 9 take away 4 is 5. It makes me so happy. 6 take away 4 is 2. It's a perfect square number. Oh, Okay, so we have to get b by itself, so we had to get rid of the square, which means we have to do the inverse operation, which would be a square root to both sides. The square root and the square cancel each other out, and we are left with 25 is the same thing as 5 squared. The square root and that square root cancel each other out. Fruit ninja! And we are left with b equals plus or minus 5. However, since we're dealing with distance, we would only write down the positive one, which is b equals 5, and that's what our answer is. So if you got that one right, yokodenki mashita, you did a wonderful job, and I will see you with the next lesson. Goodbye.